All right. So today's topic is end of year reporting for Double Up and FreshRx. And let's start out with if anyone has questions before me and Kirsten just start talking at you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pull up a document. It's the end of season checklist. And I'll share it with you. Here we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I can't, since I'm sharing screen, I can't really see faces. So the first thing that needs to be turned in is the customer record sheets. So the paper where you wrote down every day what customers came. So it'll say the last 5 of the EBT card number, how much SNAP you gave out, how much Double Up you gave out. Those sheets for every market day that you were open. Some of you guys write 1 sheet per day and others of you write multiple days on 1 sheet. If you've got multiple days on 1 sheet, just make sure that there's 2 spaces in between each day. That way, when I'm checking your records or Kirsten's checking your records, we have space to write our notes.
Do we have to turn in the sheets?
Yeah,
Okay, so since we're a year-round market, we'll do that when, in January?
yeah, it's due January 15th for year-round markets.
That's what I thought.
But if you want to go ahead and get a head start, you can get you can start putting them together now. And if you're gonna mail them, they're faster to mail. And if you're gonna submit them online, you can start uploading things into your Dropbox link. And that way you don't have to worry about it come January. A lot of
Okay,
folks,
if I mail them, do I get them back or should I make copies or?
you should make copies.
Yeah, okay.
Because we're gonna check them and then put them in a file box for 7 years or however long we have to keep them.
Right, right.
But if you want, you can go ahead and start upload. Yep. George is showing his customer record sheet. If you want, you can scan those in and just there's a Dropbox link that I've sent out and I can resend for every market to just put their documents and submit online if you prefer that. If you are like not a computer person or you don't want to deal with a scanner or whatever, mail is fine, but it's an option. And it's a good option for year-round markets because that way you're like, you can work on it now instead of it being like the holidays and not wanting to work on it.
Right.
Any more questions about customer record sheets?
Yes. Can you send this each market day as I do my reporting online? And of course, could I mail this to you without having to do it every week or every year end? In other words, every week when I'm finished with the market.
Oh, you wanted to send like 1 envelope a week? Is that what you mean? I don't understand.
I was thinking perhaps scan it and send it off in that fashion per week.
Yeah, you can for sure. Yep.
I didn't understand this question either.
Oh, he was saying, can you scan and submit as you go?
Oh,
So like, let's say your market's on Saturday, if on Monday you went and scanned all your stuff, and could you upload it to that link in like starting when you open for the year?
To the Dropbox.
To the Dropbox every week? Yes, you could. And it'll just sit there until we're ready to look at it.
right.
But you'll know it's out of the way and you don't have to worry about it. So that's good.
Yeah.
The next thing that we require is third-party verification of EBT sales, which is the batch reports that you get off of your machine at the end of each market day. So like at the end of the market day, you've got you're done making all your transactions and you batch it out. It prints out a little receipt and that should be submitted. A lot of people will like staple them to the top corner of their customer record sheet for that day. Some people like to just keep them in a little envelope and they send me a little envelope. If you've lost a batch report or you forgot to print it or whatever, you should let me know. And that way we can find an alternative. Like I might be able to get a copy of it from the state. But if it's lost, you should let me know. And then the FreshRx vouchers, if your market's doing FreshRx, you've got to send those back to Kirsten as well.
Everything
it's a-
can, everything
sorry.
in the mail. Sorry, everything in the mail can be sent to the office if you're ever in doubt of where you want to send something, whether it's to me or Sarah and our home addresses. You can absolutely always send stuff to the office. I'm sorry, Loretta.
So if I do the stapling of mine to the sheet, can I just send the whole thing together?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, if you've got them stapled in the top right-hand corner, you can scan them that way too. I mean, you can't feed them through one of those like feeder scanners, but if you're using a glass
Right.
plate, you can do that because the putting it in that top corner doesn't cover up anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be one of the ones that won't have all the batch reports because at the beginning there was kind of confusing, I guess.
Okay, that's good to know.
You know,
George is showing his right there.
What we'll do, Loretta, is contact the state and get it sort of a spreadsheet of all the transactions at your market and check it that way.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
You can
Do you know
request
how to
that.
do
ahead
that,
of time.
Loretta?
Oh, at the beginning, I think they lost some. And sometimes it wasn't a batch report or it wasn't signed off for that day, so it was 2 days or, you know, something like that. And we're learning to do the machine and
Yeah,
when I was there and
it happens. The
happens.
wind has taken many a batch report.
yeah, that
Even if
too.
you're not learning, the wind has taken
Yes,
many.
the
batch
wind has
reports.
taken, yeah, that happens
So-
too. And then sometimes you run out of paper. Have you ever run out of paper in the middle thing and have the wrong paper? That happened too.
Any questions about FreshRx vouchers?
No, but of course, just so Pam knows and everybody else knows, those are the ones where you paid us money ahead of time, right? And we will have to pay back whatever we didn't get.
Truth.
The FreshRx vouchers that we're talking about on this end of year checklist is like the
The actual
prescription-
voucher
yeah, like the prescription that the
papers.
customer brought you
Right,
to change for tokens.
right.
But you're right, Loretta, you were paid up front. We can have a conversation about rolling funds over to next year if you feel like your leadership is going to be the same. We can have a side conversation about that.
Okie dokie.
Next is completed vendor record sheets, which George probably is about to show us because he's on the ball, more on the ball than me. There are two ways you can submit these. One, you can submit the hard copies, just like the customer record sheets, but hard copies of where you paid the customer, or I'm sorry, where you paid the vendor. You can submit those as a hard copy, just the sheet that you used every week. Same thing if you're doing it like that, have 2 spaces in the middle of days if you're doing more than one day on one sheet. And if you do submit hard copies, you also need to handwrite your vendor information summary, which I'll get to in a minute. The other option is to use the vendor record keeping Excel spreadsheet, which is downloadable from the website. And if you're doing FreshRx, there's one you can download that has a column for FreshRx. And if you're not, there's one you can download that does not have space for FreshRx in it. And you put in, like you type in the vendor's information and what they redeemed each week throughout the year, and then it totals, it makes the summary, the vendor summary for you. It'll just add everything up, and that way you don't have to do it by hand. If you do turn in an Excel sheet, you can upload it to your Dropbox link, and you do not have to send customer record sheets to us, individual pick copies of the actual pages, because we've got the information in the spreadsheet. If we have questions about the spreadsheet, though, we might ask you to go back and check your vendor record sheet just to make sure.
Yeah. It's all vendor, not customer.
Yep.
Sarah misspoke at one point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, all vendor right now.
So you're gonna make sure all that stuff matches.
Mhm.
Yes.
So if it doesn't match, we better try and get it matching before we send it.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
if you have,
but they could have coins out still, right?
yeah, they could, yes. I mean,
But in
especially,
that,
especially
if-
year round.
Yeah.
if they've got coins out, then they'll redeem them later, and we
Right.
just track when they get redeemed. So I mean,
Right.
definitely
Yep.
encourage folks to turn them in, because you don't want to
Yeah.
deal with a hoard. There are definitely
At
people
the
who-
last minute, no.
yeah, at the last minute they'll come in with, on October 3rd, for a more seasonal market than yours, they'll come in on October 31st and be like, I have 5,004 tokens, and the manager's like, I don't have $5,004, so
Right.
you're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
Especially vendors that sell at multiple markets. It can be difficult if they decide to redeem all their coins with one of those several markets, right? That can get a little crazy.
And inevitably they'll take the tokens to the smallest market for whatever reason. And
Why do they do that?
Because
I
you're the
don't know.
nicest ones.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
so just if you're comfortable using Excel to turn in the vendor information is a lot better. But yes, definitely check on your batch reports. That's what should always be in the Snap redeem or the Snap distributed column on your online reporting. Let me pull it up actually, and just that way we can look at it together. So this Snap sales, every week right here, Snap sales should be the amount that's on your batch report. Whether or not that's what you wrote on your customer record sheet, if it's not the same as if your batch report is not the same as what your customer record sheet says, you should go in and in Snap sales write what was on the batch report. And then come down here in the comments and say, batch report does not match customer record sheet because, and then whatever reason, but this Snap sales should always be what's on your batch report. And then the double up distributed is what you gave customers in Snap, or I'm sorry, in double up distributed.
Double up.
You gave your customers in double up food bucks, and it should be the amount on the customer record sheet.
Right.
If there's something weird going on with that number, then you come down here and say customer record sheet double up distributed does not match because ...
Because you
Um,
messed up.
Because I'm a failure, work as an excuse? No.
And it happens all the time. So
it
don't
does.
think it's you're just a newbie or something. These numbers will do that. And in the actual audit, we will revert to the SNAP sales on the batch report. We kind of have to
Right.
trust the batch report. We have to rely on that more than the customer record sheets, but we have no way of double checking you're double up distributed. We're relying on you guys to get that right. And so sometimes there's a disconnect, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, if you don't know what happened, then you can write cashier error.
Right.
Mhm.
It's always got to be cashier error, I'm sure.
Sure.
Yeah. So the most
For the
important thing
win.
about this is we're not trying to like play gotcha, right? We're not trying to find an error. We're trying to, if there is an error, write down why there's an error and say, so in case / when we do get audited, because the NMFMA does get audited annually, if the auditor comes to me and says, well, this doesn't add up, why doesn't this add up? I can look back on these notes and say, oh, well, this is what happened. There was a cashier error. It was a new hire and they were a new volunteer and they just made a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's just accounting notes, and like you shouldn't be afraid of, like, don't try and hide anything because that's sketchy, right?
Right.
If you see there's an error, just say there was an error. And if there's a reason why there was an error, then you can say why. And if you don't know why there was an error, you can just say there was an error. And we'll just keep the note for if you're lucky enough to be the one who got spot checked on it. So let's go back to the. All right, vendor contracts used to be a little bit more of a thing than it is now. Vendor contracts really are only going to come into play if you did vendor training with a booklet and they filled out the information in the booklet. You need to make sure that you have the information on the authorized vendor spreadsheet, and so that other people can check and make sure that they're there. And then 2, you can scan it or take a picture and submit it. There's a link to Dropbox for that.
Can I ask you a question on the vendor contracts?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the vendor contracts for SNAP, right? Well, we got late people wanting to do this now. So is this like, should I tell them wait till the spring or anything, or?
No, let me just get another window pulled up and we
Yeah,
can
because I don't even know how to do all that stuff. And we got people coming in and then they don't even stay. You know, sometimes they don't come back and they're like, I want to take SNAP. And then they don't come back and you're like, what?
So here we go at on vendor training. If you want to add a vendor, if you did the booklet training with them and you have all their information from that little sheet in the booklet, you click add authorized vendor.
No, I don't have a booklet. And can't they just do it online instead?
They can, but just for everyone in the group, there's
Okay.
this is how you add someone. You put in your market name, who they are, what their info is, and what their ID number is. And if you need to request a login for someone,
So that
You
they can do
click-
it online.
so they can do it online, yeah. You
Yeah.
click your request talent LMS username and password.
Oh, okay. The LMS.
Yeah, and then put in the vendor's information as much as you know. And
Okay.
then when I get this information, I'll upload them into Talent LMS so that they're enrolled in the course, and I'll send them an email that says, hi, thanks for signing up. These are the directions, whatever. If you want to be included in that email, you put your first and last name here, and I'll carbon copy you on the email.
Okay, so
And
we at
that's in
least
the
know
market
need to
manager thing?
Yep,
Yeah, where's it at? Under,
right here under vendor training.
Vendor
But it's in the doubleup.org market manager thing.
Yeah, it's at your favorite website. It's at your double
the
up,
reporting
NM
website?
doubleupnm.org.
Oh, okay. Under vendor training. So we at least need their email address.
Yes, won't work without an email address. And if they don't have one, then we're gonna have to do the paper booklets.
No, they will have an email.
Okay.
Sarah, I have a question.
Okay,
I had submitted a request about 2 or 3 times for this one individual. And they never got an email. I never got one submitted back to me because I do put my name on it. And I was completely out of books, so I couldn't get to do the paper one. What am I going to do? Because they used Snap, of course, but they don't have a vendor number.
give me 1 second. To start answering your question, if you run out of booklets, Kirsten can send you more. She's got a whole bunch and can just pop them in the mail for you. What was the vendor's name, George, that you requested?
Carla Garcia, spelling with the first name a K.
Yeah, she's. Let's see. She's enrolled. She's in there. I don't know why. I can resend it, but she's definitely in there.
Might have gone in spam.
Did she take the training?
No.
Yeah, she said she had been looking for it and she's never gotten it.
I'll
And-
resend it.
Okay, thank you.
And Kirsten can send you some more booklets too.
Well, our
He's
market
closed.
events, I don't need any more for this year.
Yeah, he's done for now.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We'll have lots of booklets at the conference, and George, we know you won't be there, so we'll make sure that you get a whole box of stuff from us. You're gonna be so excited.
I
Or
am
we'll-
going to make an attempt to be there, but I have some pressing stuff that I need to get done, and it's going to be on that particular week. So if I can attend, I will. If I can't attend, you'll find out.
Yeah, we'll notice if you're not there, believe me. And
Yes.
Well- we happily, maybe it's an excuse to come down and bring you some donuts or something.
Ooh. All right, I'm not coming either. I want donuts.
We might have donuts at the conference too. It might be a chance for
Yeah.
like a double dip, ladies.
I'm just kidding. We'll try and come.
That's great. We'd love to have.
I don't know about donuts, but I know they always have like some sort of breakfast pastry available because it's a conference. So conferences always have those things. Anyway, and then the last two things on here, we talked briefly about one of them, weekly results accurately reported online. That's where you go and you make sure that your customer record sheets, your batch reports, and your vendor record sheets match what's online. And then reconcile your grant with NMFMA. So once you make sure that your online reporting matches, and then we make sure your online reporting matches, as farmers markets, we've sent you money ahead, and that will either, you can send back what you owe, or we can send you money if we owe you money. If you want to send money if you want to reconcile the account when you send your information in, you're more than welcome to do so. If you want to wait for us to check the records to make sure what you think is right, we also agree is right, you're also welcome to do that.
So sometimes you kind of wonder why we collect all this, right? You guys clear about why? Okay. Great.
The feds want it, right?
And the
Yeah.
state, and the
And the
state.
state.
So, when you get down to the vendor level, the state for Double Up really wants to know the impact that the program is having. And so that we go through vendor by vendor and break them down by county to let the state know the impact of the
Cool.
program.
Oh, wow.
Yep. All of the information is aggregated, right? So we like have
Take
a
their data out,
spreadsheet. We take your vendor summaries and we put those into a spreadsheet, and then we sort the spreadsheet by county and total up the totals for the state. It's really important for advocacy to keep the state invested in investing in the program, and it's also required now for the state is trying to make a dashboard for local food sales. And so it's required for their dashboard. Everything's an aggregate. So there's no personal information going to anyone. But those vendor summaries, getting those done is super important, because otherwise me and Kirsten have to do them. And there's so many outlets that us doing them for y'all is not fun. So
I'm sure.
if you don't send a vendor summary, we might send you your paperwork back and say, do your vendor summary.
Hey, how are you? Good. What are you up to? Sorry, I'm on the phone. I'm on a Zoom conference. Oh, that's okay.
Loretta, why don't you go ahead and just cancel your audio and video, and then we won't get too dizzy.
I muted her, so. Any questions about anything?
What wasn't on that list was your invoices for your stipends.
Oh, yeah,
Invoices for what?
stipends.
Oh,
You should have all received emails with attachments. And they contain, depending on which programs you're running, PDFs for you to print out and sign and fill in with a certain amount of money that you receive for running the programs at the markets. And then you can either send those back physically to us or scan them and send them back to us. Sarah and I do not pay those. Our accounting department pays those. So it's fine to absolutely send them back to us and we will get them to accounting. But just so you know, that's the process.
They look like this. There's a mid-season, and for Double Up Food Bucks, there's a mid-season invoice. That one comes in with your customer and vendor surveys. So if you didn't send customer and vendor surveys, you're not eligible to get the mid-season invoice. But if you send in your end of year paperwork, you are eligible to get the end of season invoice. And then FreshRx is only end of season. It's not broken up. But that's what they look like.
Loretta, did you get that? You're muted. Can you unmute her, Sarah?
No,
Oh, you're muted.
I can
Loretta.
mute people, but I can't unmute them.
You're muted. You're muted, Loretta. Unmute yourself. I guess I'll find out from her later.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a question. I mailed in the customer surveys, but I don't know, I assumed they got there, but I didn't get any confirmation of that, of them being received. Is that standard practice?
Let's see. I did get your surveys, but you did not send an invoice with them.
I didn't get I didn't see an invoice, sorry.
Well,
I
now you
sent
know.
my invoices in before my
Sarah,
name-
does that mean it's too late to send an invoice?
No, you could go ahead and send it because you
Okay.
did all of the you did all of the things that you have to do to get the invoice, so you can still send it.
And And that invoice is attached to the email or whatever?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
also in your binder.
Okay.
And yeah,
A mid-season.
Did you receive my surveys?
Yeah. And they have your invoice too.
Yahoo.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah.
Pauline, you're real quiet. Any questions? Trying to do it for 4 markets. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I had a specific question about one of the markets. So after, probably,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Bonnie, how you feeling?
I'm just taking notes to make sure that I can help Pauline to get all of this stuff done and figure out what it is we are missing. And I do wonder, one of the things that Pauline and I try to do is train the market managers, because we have, most of our markets that are in the Alliance have kind of like a director that does the stuff in the background and then a physical market manager. And so sometimes I wonder if we're not getting our on-site market managers trained enough to make sure that all of these things are actually happening. So I'm just kind of taking mental note of like what we need to put into a training to make sure we're not missing all these things.
Let me share my screen again. All of the document that I was showing earlier, it's right here. If you're not doing FreshRx, the whole packet, everything that goes in the binder is right here. But if you just want to see like individual things, it's all right here. If you're doing FreshRx and double up, all of your stuff is right here. And there's also, in reference to the question and the comment that you're making, there's a training video that kind of goes through everything. Bonnie, I don't know if this would be a resource for you, but
thank you for having double up.
it's got like copies of and directions for pretty much everything.
Nice.
Sometimes people just don't listen though.
Right. And so, Bonnie, also one thing we've talked about is how there's this day-long slog at the conference for market managers that is the training for running the programs, right? And we recognize that it's a day-long slog. And now, because of some grants, we have more capacity. We've hired some folks to help run the programs, especially Double Up. We're thinking of also offering training, sort of a refresher course right before markets typically open, say in May or June. So you have one training in March and then sort of a review in May or June. That we might do it regionally and actually show up, or we might do it by Zoom. We haven't gotten that far in our thinking, but recognizing that, a lot of this is covered in March and that was a long time ago. So any kind of refreshers that we can do for market managers before they really hit the ground is definitely on our radar screen as well. What do you guys think of that idea?
I think that's super helpful because we don't, we've had a lot of turnover in our market managers, and we have a lot of turnover happening right now up here in the Northwest region. And so we don't always know who our on-site manager is going to be in March. We may not know that until June 1st. And I'm sure that this is in there, but is there like a weekly checkout list or like a monthly checklist of like, did you do these things?
That's a good idea.
I don't think so. That's a good
That
idea.
might be helpful to just have, because they're all intelligent people. I think that they could figure it out, but it's like making sure that they're not missing anything by saying, okay, did you do your batch reports? Did you like what, and a little like, what does that actually mean? What to do in the event that you forgot to do one or the wind
Yeah.
blew it away? The vendor record sheets. We're having a lot of issues right now with people being allowed to take SNAP tokens that didn't do the training, because there's been like, oh, all of these people who've never been able to take SNAP before now can. Maybe they sell drinks or they sell hot food, or, you know, how do you make sure that people are not taking those tokens? I think has been one of our biggest challenges up here. And so, you know, reminding them of the impacts of like, well, what does that mean if you're allowing people to take the tokens that don't have a SNAP profile, they don't have anything on file? Because I know Pauline spent a tremendous amount of time, maybe it was last year or the year before, tracking people down that had accepted SNAP tokens and had payments. So those are probably the biggest things that we've run into, is the managers not keeping detailed reports and then it being too late to go back and figure that out.
Right.
And then missing things like the batch reports.
I love the idea of a separate color in the manager guide up front, the bright orange piece of paper, your market day checklist, and brief explanations on those things, and maybe, you know, resources of phone numbers they could call and say, I don't understand this. In the first few weeks, you know, we can field calls when people like, what do you mean? But when you say such and such, but that's a great idea. And I think, you know, like I was talking about increased capacity. We've hired Andrea Warner, who used to run the Silver City Market, and I'm sure she could help us create a very effective checklist since she's had to sort of go through that on her own.
I was going to make a suggestion about, you know, you say the market managers are kind of in charge of, you know, that problem came up of people that have not done the training because now, you know, it didn't get done, or they don't fully understand whether they can take tokens or not. And I had it set up this year that one person, me, only did road herd on EBT. I don't know of any market that could possibly have a market manager doing all the market manager stuff and also ride herd on the EBT program. And I made up my mind a year ago that the volunteer does the EBT, does nothing else. And to expect market managers to run around and check, I mean, that's what would happen. I would every week you had to go and double check the vendors that they were doing what they were supposed to do, and you would remind them. And sometimes they got confused, and you know, silver tokens would come in on baked goods people, no matter how many times you explain it. But I think it's too much to ask a market manager to keep track of that kind of thing. It needs to be somebody who's, you know, that's all they do. They just ride herd on the EBT. And these larger markets, I can imagine, I mean, even more so. I have a pretty small market, and it's still, you know, it was still something that, you know, if you have a market manager that's 100% committed to the program, I think it could happen because it's on their mind all the time. But really and truly, it's going to get away from you. But that's my opinion.
I have a question, comment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of stuff.
The applications that I put out, if the person has taken a training online or if they've done the cardboard, I mark that on their application and initial it. If somebody that checks them out, one of my volunteers checks them out, all they have to do is go into that application folder, flip to the applications to find their name, and if they have their number listed on it, then they're good to go. If they don't, they send them to me and I check them out in that fashion.
Ultimately, Bonnie, I know it's a process with the market manager in your case. In other cases, the market managers know very well that somebody hasn't done the training. And the market managers are advocates for the programs, and so they simply won't pay them. You know.
Yeah, I mean, for the alliance,
Oh, there you go.
all the market managers have to submit their vendor reimbursements through me. So then I know who's trained or not trained. So since the alliance is formed and there's one person, like Jackie says, that's responsible for making sure all the vendors that are turning in tokens are trained, they are now, because there's that one person that's sort of the gatekeeper to the token reimbursements.
Yeah, and you hate not paying people, but that's the way to make sure they get trained. You know.
And once they're trained, they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Jackie, you're not wrong. Most of the bigger markets they'll often have 2 people at the welcome table, you know, just doing EBT and things like that. So
I heard the rail yards market had 10. I don't know if that's true, but it made me feel a little better about doing it because, you know, because we had debit going as well and WIC and, you know, just all these things started to line up. And by the end, I had this like set of clipboards and that really helped. You know, one clipboard was this, the another clipboard was that. And I didn't try to write everything down on one sheet. I mean, that's one way that I know it's been done in our market in the past. It's just, I just dreaded mixing something up. So there were all these separate clipboards, but what I was talking about is being on site at the market, writing herd as it unfolded. And, you know, after about the third, you know, people would get busted. I mean, even after you explained to them, 10 minutes later, they would do it. It was just amazing to me. But this was more at the end of the season with somebody who was coming on with a load of apples. You know, like it's a one-shot deal for them. And it was amazing how many mistakes they could make after you explained it to them. And it's because it's too stressful. It's like this, yes, they want to take all the tokens and then you're trying to say, well, there's silver tokens. You know. And then there were people that came on at the end that were simultaneously craft vendors. And boy, you have to really watch them. It's very hard for them to keep it completely separate. And I'm just saying, just having somebody running around and monitoring on site, I think saves a lot of grief down the road where, you know, obviously these tokens shouldn't have been taken. And I had to refuse to pay a few people. It still happened. And this is a little market. I don't know how you guys do it. At the big market.
Well, I think there's also like a cultural difference in between different places in the state and the willingness to care about what the federal government thinks.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got chewed out for, I have this joke where I say, well, listen, you have to do this because it used to be on the market manager. It was like, what is it? $500,000 fine, 5 years in prison, you know, and I would make this joke about, hey, you got to do this because it's fun. And I had a very important vendor who only comes in the fall to just blow up, a rancher, you know, because I mentioned the federal government and wow, you know, it makes for a long day, you know.
Yeah.
At the market when this happens. I mean, this person was important and valuable and I pushed his buttons and.
Well, interesting that he was taking those social coins.
I'm sorry?
It was interesting that he took those social coins.
Oh, no, it was his wife, right? He was just hanging around. It's like, you know, and of course she was like trying to settle him down and everything. And, like, and you know, he had priors. I know he'd been busted for not paying his employees, you know, taking the federal stuff out of his employees' paychecks and stuff. So I pushed a button. I should have thought it through before I said it, but I didn't. So.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, George, we'll let you have your last question and then we'll stop recording.
In the literature, the orange cards that you have on the bottom side of that market manager login page, there is a poster that I believe Kirsten put into play that says we accept, and it shows a picture of the EBT coin. It shows a picture of EBT and double up, and it shows a picture of EBT double up and FreshRx.
We're gonna get them made for next year if I can. My
Right.
computer
I
doesn't-
couldn't-
Not in focus.
Yeah,
I do not have, I
Oh,
do
well.
not have a color printer, otherwise I would have already put
there
them
we
out.
go.
Yeah, our intention, George, is to print them in color, tweak them a little bit. We just had a meeting about this. Turn one of the coins around, actually.
Yeah,
And laminate them most likely, like in a good sturdy lamination, and get
like
them.
instead of having a, this one doesn't wanna. Oh, well,
not-
instead of having those little green rectangles, we're gonna have these laminated.
Put it up by your face and we can see it.
Yeah, this one didn't want to play nice, but
Still doesn't want to play nice.
You have
Yeah.
to put your face next to it.
I would
Like,
suggest
set-
turning
yeah,
Yeah,
see,
it-
the other
you're
one,
right.
the other ones did it, but not that one.
I would suggest the one with the double up and the FreshRx, or not FreshRx, but one with the one coin and the two coin pictures. I'd suggest turning that up and down.
Okay.
When you have a large area that is covered with fruits and vegetables, and people just don't have the want to put something large up. It's, even though it's a part of their payment, it's, they have a rough time doing it.
I completely agree. It's like, they don't want to take room away from their table to, put that thing up. It's, that's a problem I've
good
run
input.
into.
Thank you.
And then later they, when you do the evaluation of the program, they complain about how the market manager didn't boss them around about putting up their. It's like,
You win a few, you lose a few.
Well, we just had a meeting on Friday, and this is to wind us down because we're at time, but we're really aware of that, and we have several ideas of ways to help people with signage. Everything from providing more aprons to vendors that are sort of logos with the double up, so that to Sarah came up with like this, what would you call them? Basket sticks? What'd you call it, Sarah?
Yeah, like just
Lollipops.
yeah, like a popsicle stick with the logo on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
Good
Go
idea.
in their produce, like in their peppers, in their onions. You just stick it in there and it says double up. The idea is, anything that will help customers with those coins in their pockets. And we know that no one thing is going to work. Every time we came up with something, Andrea Warner especially was like, well, that won't work for so-and-so. But the idea is if we maybe have 5 or 6 different options, that if you can get even 40 to 50% of vendors using something, that will bring more of the double up into the market and make the customers, because it's also a customer thing, not just the vendors. It makes the customers much more comfortable if they see, oh yeah, this coin in my pocket is actually worth something here in multiple places. We'll see.
Yeah, vendor compliance on signage is, I mean, you guys, I think all of you guys have, well, maybe not Socorro, seen how I do an audit sheet on like when I do a market manager visit, and vendor compliance on signage is one thing that I always check for. And I would say that like the state average is 33%. Like, so anything we can do to get it closer to 50, of course, 100% compliance would be great, but I know from doing so many market visits that if there is 100% vendor compliance, it's because
They knew
The
you were
market
coming.
manager saw me pull up and ran around real quick before I got out of my car.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So, if we can get it to a little bit closer to 50% on vendor compliance with signage, I will call it a win.
Yay.
Well, thank you for staying on top of this, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for all your support.
I will see you next time.
Okay, thank you.